Hello everyone, welcome back on Meds. I am your host, Mr. Meds, aka King Meds, Inkosi Yamakambi, Aaaah ZaneYeza. So in today's video, we will be discussing pharmacy personnel that you may interact with in the dispensary. As I said before, not everyone you see in the dispensary is a pharmacist. You get different professionals. So in this video, I will be breaking down each professional for you, and I will be using their scope of practice as prescribed by the South African Pharmacy Council to try and explain the role of each professional within the dispensary team. Before we can go any further, I want you guys to understand that everyone that works in the dispensary is a trained professional. I know most people see us as cashiers, but that's fine. But we are trained professionals with qualifications. According to the Pharmacy Act, no one is allowed to dispense, sell, or give advice about scheduled medication unless they are qualified pharmacy professionals registered with the pharmacy statutory body, which in this case is the South African Pharmacy Council. Now let's discuss the professionals you will encounter in the dispensary or any pharmaceutical environment for that matter. So there is a pharmacist, a community service pharmacist, a pharmacist intern, a student pharmacist, pharmacy technician, pharmacy assistant, and then with pharmacy assistants you get a qualified post-basic pharmacist assistant, a learner post-basic pharmacist assistant, a basic assistant, and a learner basic pharmacist assistant. Now you might be asking yourself as a customer, how am I supposed to differentiate between these professionals? Well, according to the South African Pharmacy Council, everyone working in the dispensary is in the dispensary must have their professional name badge on display all the time, with their name and qualification clearly stated on the badge. With regards to pharmacist, it is also required that the name of a pharmacist on duty must also be on display at the entrance of the pharmacy or a pharmacy or dispensary where it is visible to the public. This is important because no pharmacy is allowed to operate without the presence of a pharmacist within the premises. This does not only apply to retail or hospital pharmacy, it applies to all other sectors of pharmacy, as I discussed on the previous video. So that means even in wholesale pharmacy, in industrial pharmacy, they are not allowed to operate without a pharmacist present in the premises. However, there is only one exception where a pharmacy may operate without a pharmacist present within the premises, but I will discuss that when I am discussing the pharmacy technician with the pharmacy technician, and I will make separate video about the pharmacy technician because it's quite a new qualification and I feel like it deserves its own separate video. Now let's discuss these professionals. So let me start with the two main pharmacy professionals, because I feel like once I start explaining these two, it will be easier for you to understand the rest. Now, what is a pharmacist assistant, you may ask? It is in the name, and they are professionals that are trained to assist pharmacists with their pharmacy duties. One thing you need to understand is that pharmacists are very expensive and no business is able to run on or operate with pharmacists only. Even government is unable to do that. The current regulations allow a ratio of one pharmacist to 5 assistants. Like other personnel in the dispensary, pharmacist assistants also go through a 2-year training course to become assistant, and then after they finish the 2-year course training, they can register as qualified post-basic pharmacist assistant, QPP in short. From now on, I will be referring to the qualified post-basic pharmacist assistant as QPP, otherwise I won't finish this video. His name is too long. Since we are also comparing these professionals, according to the National Qualification Framework, pharmacist is NQF 8, while the post-basic qualified pharmacist is NQS 4. Without wasting any of your time, let's discuss the scope of practice of a QPP. So this is the scope of a pharmacist assistant according to the South African Pharmacy Council and the regulation. So this is from the regulation number 11 of the Pharmacy Act. So the scope of a pharmacist assistant post-basic: a pharmacist assistant registered in the category of pharmacist assistant post-basic may perform the following services or act under the direct supervision of a pharmacist in a pharmacy. Very important, the supervision: the sale of Schedule 1 and 2 medicine or scheduled substances. So sale of 1 and 2 is usually your self-medication, your over-the-counter medication. So they are allowed to operate in an OTC without the direct supervision of a pharmacist. I know I haven't discussed schedules with you guys, but I will discuss that with you, and then you will get to understand what is Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. Assisting with compounding, manipulation, or preparing of sterile or non-sterile medicine or scheduled substances according to a formula and standard operating procedures approved by the responsible pharmacist. Assist with manufacturing of a sterile or non-sterile medicine or scheduled substance according to a formula and standard operating procedures approved by the responsible pharmacist. So the number 2 and 3 applies in manufacturing. It can be the pharmacy or dispensary, or in the industry health pharmacy. So they must work under supervision of a pharmacist. Repackaging of medicine. Repackaging means taking a medication from the original container and packing it according to the customer's needs. The distribution and control of stock of Schedule 1 to Schedule 7 medicine or of scheduled substances. So they in the distribution center, they are able to do distribution of medicine under supervision as well. The ordering of medicine and scheduled substances up to and include Schedule 7 according to the instruction of a person authorized in terms of the Medicines Act to purchase or obtain such medicine or scheduled substances. Yes, they are allowed to do scheduling and ordering of substances. The reading and preparation of a prescription, the selection, manipulation, or compounding of the medicine, the labeling and supply of medicine in an appropriate container following the interpretation and evaluation of a prescription by a pharmacist. So that is generally just dispensing medication, but it must be under supervision of a pharmacist. The provision of instruction regarding the correct use of medicine. Sublight, so that is counseling. They are able to counsel you about the usage of medicine. The provision of information to an individual in order to promote health. Health promotion is part of their scope of practice. They are able to promote health. Now let's discuss the scope of practice of a pharmacist. One thing I want you guys to note from the scope of practice of a pharmacist assistant, the post-basic pharmacist assistant that we've discussed, they must work under supervision of a pharmacist. It might be a direct or indirect supervision, but it must be a supervision of a pharmacist. What does direct and indirect means? Direct means that the pharmacist must be, and the pharmacist and the assistant must be in the same building, so they work in the same pharmacy, so that is direct direct supervision. While indirect supervision means that one can be in one institution and then the other one in the other institution. So here now and then the pharmacy has to check up on the assistant, so that is indirect supervision. As mentioned above, as I mentioned above, one pharmacist is allowed to supervise up to 5 assistants, with 3 that must be under a direct supervision, then 2 can work under indirect supervision. So based on the statement, one of the scope of practice of a pharmacist is supervising supervision of assistants and interns. So the scope of practice of a pharmacist, according to the regulations of the Pharmacy Act and the Pharmacy Council, the following services or act shall, for purpose of the act, be regarded to be services or act pertaining the scope of practice of a pharmacist. The act specially pertaining to the profession of a pharmacist is prescribed in the regulation number 3. And then 2, the formulation of any medicine for the purpose of registration as the medicine, so that is in the regulatory industry where they can apply for registration of for medication. Distribution of any medicine or scheduled substances, so yeah, they are able to distribute medicine or distribute medicine or any scheduled substances. So I think this applies mostly in the warehouse pharmacy. Repackaging of medicine is yeah, it's basically in the name. The initiation and conducting of pharmaceutical research and development, and the health promotion of public health. Now you must remember that this is just a general scope of practice of a pharmacist, but the scope of practice can vary from one sector to another. But since we will be discussing the community and institutional pharmacy, I'll further discuss the scope of practice of a pharmacist relating to these two types of pharmacies. If you do not understand the difference between these two, I'll suggest that you check my previous video for more clarification. The scope of practice of a pharmacist in a community and institutional pharmacy. So this is according to regulation number 18 of the regulations of the Pharmacy Act. So that's community or institutional pharmacy, except as provided for in the Medicines Act. The following services pertaining the scope of practice of a pharmacist may be provided in a community or institutional pharmacy. The provision of pharmaceutical care by taking responsibility for the patient's medicine-related needs and being accountable for meeting these needs, which shall include but not be limited to the following function. You must, as a pharmacist, you must be able to take accountability for everything that happens in the dispensary. So that's one of the roles of the pharmacist, to take accountability. So number A, evaluation of a patient's medicine related needs by determining the indication, safety and effectiveness of therapy. So as a pharmacist, you, with your knowledge or the knowledge that you acquired from varsity, this is the most important step in dispensing medication. You must be able to evaluate the medication for safety, effectiveness and indication of the medication. So this is very important. If you don't have enough theory, then you fail this step, and then a lot of things, bad things can happen. So you don't want to mess up. So you don't want to mess up this step, because a lot of people can get hurt if you don't understand anything about the effectiveness and safety of the medication. Dispensing of any medicine or scheduled substances on the prescription of an authorized prescriber. Authorized prescriber, I will discuss this in the next video because it's very important. The authorized prescriber, there's a lot of chances these days when it comes to prescriber. You must be able to identify, or must be able to know how to identify a valid or invalid prescriber. You must also be able to know the scope of practice of other prescribers. Otherwise you will be dispensing wrong stuff, and once you dispense a wrong prescription, you are held liable for that prescription you dispense. Furnishing of information and advices to any person with regards to medicine. So pharmacists are able to give people advices about the use of medication, information about medication. Determining patients' compliance with the therapy and follow up to ensure that the patient needs are being met. So that's basically following up on therapy that you have dispensed. Provision of pharmacy initiated therapy. The compounding, manipulating or preparing of any medicine or a scheduled substances. The purchasing, acquiring, keeping, possessing, using. That using, don't take it the other way. That using means using your medication for the customer benefits, maybe injecting or whatever way you want to explain it, but not using it for yourself. That doesn't mean you can get high on your own supply. You don't do that. You don't get high on your own supply. So supplying or selling of any medicine or scheduled substances. The application for registration of medicine or medical devices is because it's still a pharmacist, so you are allowed to register medication. Repackaging of medicine, so that is, as I said, you are allowed to pack medication from its original container and give it and pack it into suitable to the customer. The promotion of public health in accordance with guidelines and standards as determined by the competent authority, which include but shall not be limited to the provision of education regarding the promotion of health, of human health, the provision of immunization, mother and child, blood pressure monitoring, health education, blood glucose monitoring, screening tests for pregnancy, family planning, cholesterol screening tests, HIV screening tests, urine analysis, and variometric and audiometric screening tests. So those services are basically the services that are provided in the clinics. Some pharmacists are able to provide them, but for you as a pharmacist to be able to provide most of those services, you must register with the council regarding those services. You can't just provide them. Just register with the council. And then C says the provision of animal health care services, which include the compounding and dispensing of prescription, of prescriptions written by veterinary and ensuring the optimal use of veterinary medicine, the immunization of animals, the handling of minor and or self-limiting ailments in animals, and the provision of information and education regarding promotion of animal health. That is basically the veterinary pharmacy's scope of practice, but most of the veterinary pharmacies are community pharmacies. 7. The initiation and conducting pharmaceutical research development, the provision of primary care drug therapy which with prior authorization from the council. There is an example like you in the cases there are pharmacists nowadays that are able to prescribe ARVs, so they are able to do PrEP and PEP and also prescribe ARV. They can't initiate therapy on ARVs, but they can maintain therapy but you have to be registered with the council before doing that, and you have to take a special prescribing course for you to be able to do that as a pharmacist. Any other services as may be approved by the council from time to time. So that is gonna be it for now. I do not want to make this video too long, so I'll stop here. We will continue with other professional after this one. If you understand these two, it is gonna be very easy for you to understand the rest. I also want to welcome the new members. Welcome on Meds. Welcome. You are all welcome. So I hope you guys, I hope this page will give you guys nothing but clarity, but you can also share, like, and subscribe for more. Also follow me on other social media platform, on Facebook on .meds, on TikTok I'm on _meds at _meds7. But for now, stay on meds, as we are bringing you clarity, not confusion, one med at a time. See you on the next one. Thank you.